What if I told you that the pain you suffered in secret was your spiritual initiation, and that the very people who tried to destroy you will one day be the ones watching as you rise in undeniable glory? Chosen one, you've lived through storms others couldn't even imagine. You've faced betrayal, isolation, and spiritual warfare, forces that sought to break you down. Yet here you are, stronger, clearer, and more aligned than ever. This is not just a story of survival, it's the beginning of a revelation. The truth that was hidden is now being brought to light. In this video, we'll uncover the divine purpose behind your trials, explain why you were always a target, and show you how your survival is not just proof of strength, it's a fulfillment of prophecy. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. You've been underestimated, misunderstood, and overlooked. But this is your moment. The ones who doubted you are about to witness the light they tried to extinguish illuminate everything. Stay until the end, because what you hear today might change your life. Weaponized kindness turned into strength. There was a time when your kindness was a double-edged sword. You moved through the world with an open heart, believing that showing compassion was not just a virtue, but a calling. You believed it would be met with gratitude and reciprocation. Yet, instead of encountering warmth and understanding, you found yourself surrounded by those who saw your kindness as a resource to exploit. They manipulated your good intentions, leveraging your empathy to meet their needs without regard for your well-being. And though it may have felt like the world was draining you dry, this was the moment your soul was quietly, subtly beginning to evolve. That kind-hearted nature that once drew others in began to feel like a burden. You questioned yourself. Was it wrong to care so deeply? Was it foolish to give so freely? These doubts weighed heavily on your spirit, leaving you feeling isolated and undervalued. You may have even wondered if there was something inherently flawed in your approach, if opening your heart too widely meant inviting harm. The burden of these questions created a powerful tension within you, as if your very identity was at odds with the world around you. Yet, in those moments of confusion and frustration, you were not breaking down. You were being forged, piece by piece, into something unbreakable. Hidden within this struggle was a divine plan. You were not meant to see it at first. It was designed to unfold slowly, revealing itself in ways you could only recognize with time. Consider the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers, imprisoned unfairly, and left to wonder why his dreams had seemingly betrayed him. Yet, it was precisely through those trials that Joseph's gifts were refined. His kindness, his ability to interpret dreams, and his unwavering faith transformed him into a leader who would save nations. Similarly, your kindness was never a flaw. It was a seed planted in the soil of hardship, destined to grow into something mighty. Those moments of betrayal and manipulation were the tools that tilled the ground, preparing you for a harvest of strength and discernment that would not be possible otherwise. Now, as you reflect on where you've come from, you may begin to notice the subtle signs of transformation. The same situations that once left you feeling drained now present themselves differently. You find yourself saying no with confidence, not out of anger or resentment, but out of a deep knowing that your energy is sacred. You start to see the patterns in people's behavior that you once overlooked. You sense their intentions before they even speak, and you navigate these interactions with clarity and ease. Your compassion remains intact, but it is no longer indiscriminate. It is directed, purposeful, and protected by the boundaries you've built. This shift is not only internal, it's visible to others. They notice the calm authority in your presence, the way you carry yourself with a quiet, undeniable strength. What you may not yet realize is how deeply aligned this transformation is with the divine. There is a higher force that saw every tear, every moment of doubt, and every ounce of pain. This force was not testing your limits, but preparing you for elevation. The spiritual alignment now unfolding in your life is no coincidence. The connections that once drained you have been replaced by those that uplift you. The doors that closed in your face have given way to opportunities that reflect your true worth. These shifts are not random, they are a divine orchestration. Your kindness was always meant to shine, but now it does so with a light that cannot be dimmed or diverted. With this divine alignment comes a profound realization. Your journey was never just about surviving. It was about awakening to your own power. Many people shy away from this kind of transformation, clinging to the familiar even when it no longer serves them. They fear the unknown, the uncertainty of stepping into a new identity. But you have reached a sacred moment where the choice is clear. To fully embody the strength that has been forged through your trials, you must let go of old fears and doubts. This is a moment of acceptance, of stepping fully into the truth that your kindness is no longer a vulnerability. It is a gift, and one that you now wield with wisdom and grace. As you take the next step, consider how you can use this newfound strength. Perhaps it's time to embrace your calling, to create from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Maybe it's about investing in your spiritual practice, deepening your connection to the divine so that you remain centered as life continues to unfold. Or it could mean simply trusting the process, knowing that the universe has aligned in your favor and will continue to guide you. Whatever the next step looks like for you, it is a step into power, confidence, and a purpose that is uniquely yours. Remember, the trials you faced were never meant to diminish you. They were meant to prepare you. You are no longer defined by what others took from you, but by what you chose to become. If this resonates with you, comment "alchemy" below. Let this word serve as a reminder that what once felt like destruction was actually the creation of your greatest strength. Your kindness has become a force of nature, refined by fire and now unshakable. Psychological warfare and emotional resurrection. You may have felt like you were constantly walking a tightrope, each step uncertain, every movement scrutinized, as if the world were just waiting for you to stumble. The voices around you, and sometimes even within you, whispered that you were not enough. They told you to settle for less, to play it safe, to accept that your dreams were out of reach. And over time, those whispers became a chorus, growing louder until they felt impossible to ignore. You've carried this weight long enough to know how heavy it can be. But even in those darkest moments, when doubt was at its strongest, something within you never truly gave up. That spark, faint and flickering, refused to be extinguished, and that's why you're still here. Because deep down, you've always known there was more waiting for you beyond the lies and illusions. In that place of uncertainty, where confidence wavered and clarity seemed out of reach, you may have found yourself questioning everything. Why were you put in situations that seemed designed to break you? Why did the very people you trusted try to undermine your faith in yourself? These emotional wounds ran deep, leaving you feeling isolated and unsure of your own worth. It's not just about what they said or did, it's about how those experiences made you doubt the truth of who you are. Every subtle manipulation, every moment of being gaslit into questioning your own reality chipped away at the person you thought you were. And yet, even as those pieces of your identity seemed to fall away, something larger was quietly taking shape beneath the surface. What you didn't see at first was how all of this was laying the groundwork for something much greater. Consider the story of Elijah in the wilderness, a prophet so overwhelmed by fear and doubt that he fled to a desolate place. He believed he was completely alone, pursued by forces too powerful to overcome. But in that isolation, God sent an angel, not in a dramatic display, but in a still, small voice, to remind him of his strength and his purpose. It wasn't the grand miracles that changed Elijah's course. It was the quiet, persistent truth that he was not abandoned, not unworthy, and not finished. In the same way, your journey through the confusion and the emotional fog was not a sign of failure. It was a preparation for the clarity and purpose that were waiting to emerge. Over time, you began to notice subtle shifts. The patterns you once fell into, allowing others to dictate your worth, questioning your every move, started to break apart. It wasn't an overnight change, but a gradual awakening. You found yourself pausing before reacting, taking a breath before internalizing someone else's judgment. You started to see the cracks in their facade, the inconsistencies in their words. This new awareness felt like stepping into sunlight after years of shadow. Your mind, once a battleground, began to feel more like sacred ground. It became a place where you could choose which thoughts to nurture and which to let go. And as you made those choices, the grip of the past began to loosen, revealing a deeper, unshakable truth. You were never defined by what others tried to make you believe. As these transformations unfolded, it became impossible to deny that something greater was at work. The synchronicities you once brushed off now felt like divine timing. The moments when you thought you'd hit a wall were actually doors waiting to open. Each step forward revealed another layer of purpose, another piece of the puzzle. Your struggles were never random. They were always part of a larger, divine plan. The interventions, sometimes subtle, sometimes striking, that guided you through this storm were signs that your path was not only real, but intentional. You were being led, step by step, toward a destiny that no one else could claim. It wasn't just about surviving those mental and emotional trials. It was about rising from them with a power that only you could carry. With this newfound awareness, you began to see that transformation wasn't just something happening to you, it was something you were actively choosing. Many people shy away from this kind of change, clinging to what's familiar even when it no longer serves them. They hesitate, unsure if they're ready to let go of the old patterns and step into a new way of being. But for you, the time has come to fully embrace what's been building all along. This is not a moment to shrink back or second-guess. It's a sacred turning point where you have the opportunity to stand firmly in your power, no longer swayed by the voices that once tried to define you. It's a call to action, an invitation to trust that what's ahead is greater than what you've left behind. Now, as you stand on this threshold, it's time to take the next step. Let go of the fear that kept you small. Release the doubts that whispered you weren't enough. You have seen the signs, felt the alignment, and heard the call. Embrace the truth of who you are, without hesitation, without apology. This is the moment to claim your identity as someone who has not only survived, but thrived. Strengthen your spiritual practice, deepen your connection to the divine, and trust that the process is unfolding exactly as it should. The path before you is clear, and it's time to walk it with confidence and conviction. Your journey is far from over, but you have already come so far. The trials that once seemed overwhelming have become the foundation of your greatest strength. Your mind is no longer a place of confusion, it's a sanctuary of clarity and peace. If this resonates with you, comment "I rise" below. Let those words be a declaration of the truth you now stand in. You are not the same person who began this journey. You are brighter, stronger, and more certain of your purpose than ever before. This is your resurrection, and the world is about to see you shine. Divine endurance against spiritual assassination. There were times when you felt like you were fighting a war you couldn't see, let alone understand. The very foundation of who you were seemed under siege. It was not just people or circumstances, but a deeper force that worked quietly, attempting to chip away at your confidence and spirit. The rejection you faced didn't always come in grand, obvious gestures. It often came in subtle, stinging moments that lingered long after they ended. Words spoken with a sharp edge, a sudden cold shoulder, an opportunity withdrawn just as it was within reach. These weren't random misfortunes. They were calculated, deliberate, meant to push you into the shadows. You may have questioned why so much resistance met your every step, why every move forward seemed to draw even greater opposition. But if you felt this, you're not alone. This experience is shared by many who walk a path set apart, a path that calls for extraordinary endurance. The weight of these attacks often felt unbearable. There were days when you questioned your own worth. Why did it feel like you were always on the outside looking in? Why did every success seem to come with a cost, every moment of joy met by a wave of doubt? It wasn't just the external obstacles, it was the inner turmoil they caused. That voice inside, the one that once spoke with confidence and clarity, now sounded uncertain and faint. Each rejection echoed through your mind, not just as a single event, but as a reflection of who you were. It was as if the world was holding a mirror to your worst fears, convincing you that you didn't belong, that you would never rise above. But even in those moments of deepest despair, there was a part of you that refused to give in. A quiet resolve that whispered, "This isn't the end." What you may not have realized at the time was that every challenge, every heartbreak, every moment of humiliation was refining you. Think of Joseph in the house of Potiphar, unjustly accused and thrown into prison. For years, it seemed like his destiny was nowhere to be found. Yet during that time, his gifts of discernment and leadership were being sharpened in ways that could not happen otherwise. His rejection was the very path that led him to a higher calling. Similarly, the struggles you faced were not random acts of cruelty. They were the forge that shaped your character, the fire that tempered your spirit. Each attack, though painful, was a step in your preparation. Each loss was a lesson in faith, patience, and inner strength. Slowly, the signs of transformation began to appear. At first, they were subtle. You noticed that you no longer reacted to every slight, every cold word. You began to see patterns in how others treated you, and with that awareness came power. The rejection that once crushed you now seemed to roll off your shoulders. What others meant for harm no longer took root in your heart. You found yourself standing taller, speaking with more clarity, moving with a quiet confidence that surprised even you. People around you started to notice, though they couldn't quite put their finger on it. "There's something different about you," they'd say. What they didn't realize was that the difference wasn't something you added, it was what you'd shed. The doubts, the fears, the need for external approval were falling away, revealing the strength that had been there all along. And as you changed, the world around you seemed to shift as well. It became clear that higher forces were at work, clearing paths you hadn't even seen before. That rejection that once stung so deeply was actually a redirection, leading you toward a better opportunity, a healthier connection, a more aligned purpose. Synchronicities began to appear, meeting the right person at the right time, discovering an open door just as another closed. These weren't coincidences. They were the hand of divine intervention, weaving your story into something greater than you imagined. What once felt like chaos now seemed like choreography. And through it all, you realized that your struggles were not in vain. They were the very foundation of your strength, the proof that your calling was real. But strength alone isn't enough. You had to come to a moment of realization, a point where you not only acknowledged the change but fully accepted it. This is where many people hesitate. They see the signs, feel the shift, but they resist. Fear of the unknown holds them back. The comfort of the familiar, even if painful, can feel safer than stepping into something new. But true transformation demands acceptance. It requires that you not only recognize what is happening but embrace it. You have to trust that what lies ahead is not just better, but meant for you. This is the sacred moment where you must decide. Will you step into your power, or will you shrink back into the shadows? Now is the time to step forward. Release the fear that once held you back. Let go of the doubt that kept you small. The strength you've gained wasn't given to you to keep hidden. It was meant to be shared, to be seen, to be used for something greater. You are no longer the person who once felt powerless. You are stronger, wiser, and more capable than ever. Embrace your calling. Deepen your spiritual practice. Trust the process that has brought you here. This is your moment to walk into your destiny with confidence, knowing that you are guided by a force greater than yourself. If this message resonates with you, comment, "I am ready." These words are more than a statement, they are a declaration. A declaration that you are no longer defined by what others have done to you, but by what you have become. Your journey is far from over, and what lies ahead is greater than anything behind you. Trust the strength you've built. Walk in your truth, shine your light, and let the world see the powerful, unstoppable force that you have become. Death, resurrection, and identity collapse. You felt it before, those moments of profound loss that seemed to rip away the very foundation of who you were. It wasn't a single catastrophic event, but a series of small, relentless blows that wore you down. Each time, you found yourself grieving silently, mourning parts of yourself that no one else even noticed were gone. While the world carried on as if nothing had happened, you were left in an emotional void, wondering why these pieces of your identity kept falling away. But beneath the surface of that pain, something powerful was taking shape. Those losses, those silent funerals, were not endings at all. They were part of a greater process, one that would eventually reveal a version of you that could never be destroyed. In those moments, it felt like your very soul was under siege. You questioned everything. Why was this happening to you? Why did you feel like you were constantly losing parts of yourself? The confusion was almost unbearable. At times, you may have looked in the mirror and wondered if you even recognized the person staring back. It wasn't just about losing friends or opportunities, it was about losing the sense of who you were supposed to be. The roles you had carefully built, the masks you had worn to fit others' expectations, all of it seemed to crumble, leaving you exposed and vulnerable. The weight of that emptiness was more than just sadness. It was a deep, existential despair that left you searching for meaning in the chaos. And yet, what you couldn't see then was how this destruction was part of a divine plan. Consider the words of Jesus in John 12 verse 24. Unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Your emotional deaths were like that kernel of wheat. Each time a part of your identity fell away, it was making room for something far greater. It wasn't random, it was a sacred process of renewal. Just as the seed must break open to grow into something new, you had to let go of the person you thought you were in order to become the person you were truly meant to be. This was not a punishment, it was a preparation for the abundance that was to come. As the layers of your old self fell away, something remarkable began to happen. You started to notice shifts, not all at once, but little by little. The situations that once broke you now felt more manageable. The criticisms that once cut you deeply now barely grazed you. People who once held power over you seemed to lose their grip. It was as if the soil of your life had been turned, making it fertile for new growth. Your inner world, once so chaotic and fragile, began to stabilize. You started to see glimpses of your true self, stronger, clearer, more authentic. It wasn't about becoming someone new, it was about uncovering the person you'd always been, buried under layers of expectations, fears, and doubts. As you look back, it becomes clear that these shifts were not merely the result of time or effort. There was a higher force at work, orchestrating each step. The losses you endured, the tears you shed, the nights you spent questioning your purpose, all of it was guided by divine timing. You were being led towards something greater, even when it didn't feel that way. The alignments you now see, the opportunities that seem to appear at just the right moment, are not coincidences. They are the result of a spiritual plan unfolding in your life. Each emotional death was a step closer to your resurrection, a reminder that the universe was always working in your favor, even when it felt like everything was falling apart. But transformation isn't just something that happens to you, it's something you must embrace. Many people resist this process because it's frightening to let go of what they've always known. They cling to their old identities, even when those identities no longer serve them. But true growth requires courage. It demands that you step into the unknown, trusting that what lies ahead is greater than what you leave behind. This moment of realization is sacred. It's the point where you must decide to stop fighting the process and instead surrender to it. When you do, you'll find that the very things you feared losing were never truly yours to keep. They were stepping stones, not destinations. Now, as you stand on the other side of these emotional deaths, you have a choice. You can continue to look back, clinging to what once was, or you can step boldly into your new reality. The person you were before could never have handled what you're about to step into. The strength, clarity, and resilience you've gained are not just for you. They're for the greater purpose you've been called to fulfill. It's time to release the fear, let go of the doubts, and embrace your true identity. The person who emerged from those trials is not just a survivor, they are a leader, a guide, a beacon of light for others who are still in the dark. If this resonates with you, comment "I rise" below. These words are more than just a declaration, they are a promise to yourself. A promise that you will no longer mourn the parts of you that have fallen away. A promise that you will honor the process that brought you here. And most importantly, a promise that you will walk forward with confidence, knowing that you are not the same person you once were. You are stronger, you are wiser, and you are ready to step into the incredible power you now carry as the cornerstone of a new reality. From the black sheep to the cornerstone. You know the feeling all too well. Walking into a room and sensing, before anyone says a word, that you don't quite belong. Maybe it's the way their eyes briefly linger on you, or the subtle shift in tone when you speak. You've spent so much of your life on the edges, looking in. There were moments when it seemed as though your very existence disrupted the fragile balance of the world around you. It wasn't a question of being liked or disliked. It was something deeper. You were labeled, often without anyone using the actual words, as the one who just didn't fit. And while others seemed to move effortlessly through the social currents, you were left to navigate against the tide, alone. Yet through all of this, you've wondered, why? Why have you always felt so separate, so different? And what could it mean, beyond the discomfort of never quite fitting into the mold? Those labels, misfit, outcast, black sheep, didn't just come from nowhere. They came from a pattern of exclusion that followed you from one chapter of life to the next. It showed up in school when your ideas were dismissed, even if they were just as good or better than anyone else's. It showed up at work when your contributions were overlooked or even taken by someone more palatable. It appeared in relationships when you were misunderstood or made to feel that your perspective wasn't valid. Each experience left a mark, not just on your sense of belonging, but on your very identity. Over time, the world's repeated rejections planted seeds of doubt. What if they were right? What if you weren't enough? And yet, even in the moments of deepest despair, when it felt like you were drowning in a sea of unworthiness, there was something in you that refused to be extinguished. That tiny, resilient spark whispered, "You don't belong here because you're meant for something different." In these moments of confusion and rejection, a greater truth was being revealed. Think about David, the youngest of Jesse's sons, overlooked and left to tend the sheep while his brothers stood before the prophet Samuel. No one thought David had what it took to be a king. He was dismissed, his potential invisible to everyone but God. And yet, David wasn't just being overlooked, he was being prepared. His time in the fields, his solitude, and his battles with lions and bears were not random, they were training. Similarly, your place on the edges, your time as the black sheep, has not been a punishment. It has been preparation. Each slight, each dismissal has been sharpening you, giving you a depth of character and perspective that those who fit comfortably in the center of the crowd could never develop. You weren't meant to be one of many. You were meant to be the cornerstone, the one upon whom something entirely new would be built. As you reflect on where you are now, you might begin to notice that the rejection which once stung so sharply no longer holds the same power. Something has shifted. The words that used to cut you now slide off your skin. The situations that used to leave you feeling isolated now seem more like opportunities than burdens. It's not that the world has changed overnight, it's that you have. You've grown into a version of yourself that no longer needs external validation to know your worth. People may still try to dismiss you, but they can sense something different. Your confidence, your self-assuredness, radiates in a way that can't be ignored. Even those who once pushed you aside now pause when you speak, because they can't help but feel the weight of your presence. The very quality that made you an outcast has become your greatest strength, setting you apart as someone who doesn't just follow but leads. And it's not just personal growth that has brought you here. There are forces at work far greater than you could have imagined. You were never meant to remain on the margins. The divine plan for your life has always been to rise above the structures that tried to contain you. Each rejection, each slight, was carefully allowed, not to hurt you, but to shape you into someone who can build something entirely new. The people who once made you feel small now seem to orbit around your light, unsure of how to approach the transformation they see. This isn't a coincidence. It's a divine alignment, a fulfillment of the truth that was always in you, even if it took time to manifest. The black sheep is no longer an outsider. They are the cornerstone, the foundation for something that will redefine the space you occupy. If this resonates with you, comment, "I am the cornerstone." These words are not just a declaration, they are a promise. A promise that you will no longer allow the world's labels to define you. A promise that you will honor the journey that brought you here. And a promise that you will stand firmly in your power, knowing that you are not the person you once were. Chosen one, you've survived storms others couldn't even imagine. You're not just a survivor, you're a prophecy fulfilled. Those who doubted you will soon see the truth. The one they underestimated is the one sent to lead. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment, "I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul." Share it with someone who needs to hear this. 4 full prophetic revelations daily. Join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. You were never just meant to survive. You were born to rise.